if you keep a UTI, why? Like sometimes working through those energetic things, like you do this along with other things. Like, when you do a spiritual practice, when you do a spiritual cleansing, you're not just doing that. You're doing that in tandem with real life stuff. Like this is something you add to your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny. So like I'm in this dark place. I'm under the curse. I don't know it because and that's another thing. There's always enough there to make you think that maybe I'm just crazy.
Welcome to Creepalachia. I have been looking forward to this episode for a long time. I am so glad to be joined by Dottie. We'll go the Psychic, Dottie the Witch. So I got a message. Thank you for being here. I got a message from you saying, "Hey, I'm a witch. I want to be on your podcast." And I was like, "Okay, let's figure this out." So, more than that, though, I'm excited to learn about your backstory and to talk about some creepy, but also some potentially beautiful, but also haunting stuff.
Got a little bit of all that.
Little bit of all of that. So give me some backstory on you. Where are you from? All that good stuff.
It's funny when you say you're from somewhere in West Virginia, that's usually where you went to high school. I went to high school in Hurricane, but I'm from Clendenin. That's where I live. I work out of Charleston, so I'm a little bit all over the state. I lived in Jackson County for like 10 years, and so a little bit of all over the state.
Awesome. And Clendenin, was you there? Wasn't there a big flood there recently?
That was in 2016.
Yep.
It was the big flood, like the big Clendenin flood, and that was way before I moved up there. My husband, he lived there. He got flooded in for like 3 days or something, but it was. He said that half the town is just never been the same. It's a nice little town though, but they like celebrate that flood every year.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I filmed a wedding there.
Oh, it's a beautiful location.
Yeah, I loved it. There's a little church there. I don't know if there's multiple churches, but this was a little white church from what I remember.
It's rural Appalachia. There are enough churches. There are more churches than there are post offices.
That's a good point. So, but one of them there is beautiful. And I think, is there a boxing gym there? I think there's like a boxing gym. Anyway.
I need to get in and explore the town. They do a lot of like little events and things in there. It's really cool. There's like a nice little coffee shop. There's like a coffee shop and then like a pastry shop next to them. Like, okay, I guess we don't. There's a pastry shop serves coffee, but it's like Keurig. And then like next door, they got the latte machine. So.
Heck yeah. Awesome. And so did you grow up in West Virginia or did you?
I did. I actually grew up in Hurricane. I was born in Virginia. Actually, it's pretty cool. I was born in Norfolk, Virginia, which is like really, really close to the Edgar Cayce Foundation, it's just really cool. Like it's a really spiritual kind of area. And we moved back because my dad was from West Virginia and my mom's dad was in the army. So he moved around, but they moved to West Virginia and that's where they met in Ravenswood up in Jackson County.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved back up there for a couple of years and then we moved to Hurricane and I went to high school there, was there for years and years and years. Which it would be really interesting to see what people from high school thought of me now. I bet it was not the best of times. We all survive. We survive middle school and high school. And then I went to, I lived in Jackson County for a while. I lived in Huntington for a couple of years. That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then moved to St. Albans in 2018 when I left my quintessential crappy ex. That's a whole backstory right there. And ended up pretty much I'm working out of Charleston now, so that's the
oh cool
the whole story.
Yeah, all over. Awesome. And so you was mentioning to me you have medium capabilities. Can you kind of break that down, what that means, and explain?
So it's kind of funny because I am Dottie the Psychic. That's my business name. It's Dottie the Psychic. I don't really sell the mediumship bit because I can't make people show up on command. But if I go into places, I can see and hear things going on. Like most people with psychic abilities aren't out there being a psychic. They're day-to-day people. So if you see and hear something, then you see and hear something. But I'm not only willing to admit it, but to interact with the spirits. And so that makes it easier for them to communicate with me. I have a natural talent I got from my mom. She was a psychopomp. Like sometimes when people die, they get a little lost, they get a little stuck. And they would come to my mom to open the door, is what she called it. And so she taught me to do that. And so like a lot of times when I go, I have somebody who's coming in and their loved one just can't cross over and their heart kind of, because it gets kind of scary. It gets scary for the spirit. It gets scary for the people that live in the house. Like, and it's a lot of grief. So it does a lot of talking people through their grief is one of the biggest things I do as a medium, you know, and then helping that spirit also to open the door and cross on. So that's kind of what I do as a medium.
How old were you when you started to figure out like, hey, this isn't right? You know.
So honestly, it's like one of those first memory situations. I think I was about 3 years old, and I remember laying in the bed, and my sister is like also in the bed. We're like small children. And I look over at the door, and I see these figures like looking over us, like, but they're not mom and dad. Like they look like adults, but they're almost like about to date myself, but the old TV static kind of look. They kind of looked like that. Like they were not quite coming through clearly. And I remember seeing the just spirits and things my whole life,
Yeah. That's so interesting. When is there a certain experience that points out to you of like that was very memorable growing up with seeing the other side? Or
it's funny because like I was told that I was going to be a psychic. One of my dad's friends was talking to my mom, and she's like, does she sometimes just space out? I'm like, yeah. I'm like half in this world and half like off in my own. And she's like, she's got the gift. And she gave me just these bunch of cards, like tarot cards, oracle cards. And, I lost most of them. It kind of freaked my dad out. So he took my cards. I was like 13. He took all my cards. And then at 16, I started to get into, it's high school. And I met this girl who also believed in these things. Like my mom believed in these things, but things were kind of quiet and strained a little bit. But then I met this girl who showed me Teen Witch. I think I got the book Teen Witch.
Was this Sabrina or was it a different series?
Teen Witch is a book.
Okay.
It's by Silver Ravenwolf. Whoa. And it is written for teenagers who are kind of dealing with spiritual activity that don't have support. But I did have support. Like my mom and dad were very supportive. There was always kind of an underlying magic. But like after I showed real interest, mom and dad talked about it more. Like mom told me about how she helped spirits cross over, and we did the cleansings, and we could talk about spirit stuff in my house. But it wasn't. But it was like. It was all kept quiet until I hit a certain age, until I kind of demanded that we started talking about it. And then even that, like my dad, he would take me out in the woods sometimes, or just out and about whenever we were doing something. He sold swords out of the back of his van. That's where I got my interesting streak. So we'd be out and he'd be like, oh, look at the crows. They mean we're going to make good money. Or look at the clouds. They're doing a certain thing, and that's kind of the Appalachian know-how,
Crows mean good money?
Yeah, I love crows. Crows were my daddy's bird. They're actually, they love shiny things. They flock together in family units, and they'll remember you. Like, they hold grudges, but they also remember who's friends. And so, and it's kind of funny. We were talking about when I left my ex, when I moved out of Jackson County, and moved back. Well, I moved to St. Albans. I basically landed on a buddy's couch. And the day that I did, I leave with like a suitcase of dirty clothes, some odds and ends and bits of my dog. I look like a flood victim, like in the gray jumpsuit. I look like I left the cult. I have like a Ninja Turtle toboggan on and a gray sweater, gray sweatpants. I look like I have just busted out of the cult. And my mom and I are driving down the road. And if y'all know, there's a St. Albans, or not St. Albans, the South Charleston flock of crows is huge. I don't know how many crows are out there. I need to look it up and find out how many crows are actually in this flock. But it had, for some reason, that day, moved down to St. Albans. So we're driving down the road, and these trees are just full of crows. And my mom looks at me and says, well, I think you made the right decision. I think your dad approves of your decision. I'm like, yeah, I think that's a sign.
That's fun. What is a flock of crows? Is it a murder of crows? I
think it's called a murder. Yeah.
Which is,
I don't know. This one would definitely be like an apocalypse of crows because it is a lot of crows. If you're from South Charleston, you know, like they always hang out at the college up there, and it's really cool. They'll like darken the skies. There's so many of them.
Yeah,
it's wild.
So we're going to kind of bounce around a little bit, but I heard tarot cards. I've always wondered, how does that work? Is there a certain system for how you do it, or is that something you even do?
Yeah, I do cards. Okay, so tarot cards are kind of the psychic industrial standard, and that usually implies the Rider-Waite, which I personally like to just call the Smith decks, and she's the one that did the art, just putting that out there. But they are a system. It's funny because there's different ways of reading cards, because there's also, in Appalachia, there's the tradition of using just regular playing cards. They were more, they were more common for people to use. People had them around, so they would use that. Tarot cards they still got a really bad stigma around them. They're very, like, a little bit occult, so they wouldn't have been as common in this area, but I can read both of them. They do read differently. Like, if you're going to learn how to read tarot, it's good to get, like, a training deck or a deck where the art really speaks to you. But essentially, it's kind of funny because with playing cards, the deck itself is very standardized. It's very standardized. There's 4 suits with 13 cards in each of them, 3 being court cards, and then the 1 through 10. But the meanings for those cards, the way people read those cards, is individual. It depends on, like, how you were taught by whoever taught you to read those cards. Mm-hmm. Whereas the tarot cards, they're not quite as standardized. Like, they still have parts that are definitely standardized, but there's the Thoth tarot deck. There is the Rider-Waite tarot deck, and there's a whole bunch of different kinds of tarot decks. And they are basically playing card suits with the Journey of the Fool added to it. I'm going to do a whole video on this. I will geek out on cards.
Oh, yeah. So it's not like playing Uno or anything. And can I make jokes, or is that bad? Okay.
You know what? Actually, because they think about it, like, tarot cards are Italian Renaissance period. They were not out there. They're a perfect example of how something is taken from what it was into and kind of adapted and adopted. Because tarot cards were playing cards. They're Italian style of playing cards. I want to do a whole video on this someday in the vague and distant future. I've actually bought a couple of different decks from different areas, because there's, like, German playing cards are different than Italian playing cards, and the playing cards that we're used to actually are from French descendant. Yeah, that's English. They're so they're basically just a tarot deck is a regular deck with the Journey of the Fool added. During the Italian Renaissance, that was a different game. That was part of a different game called Trumps. And I've played it once a long time ago, but I couldn't even tell you what the rules are because I use them for reading. I read way more than I play.
Sure. So by reading, each card has a different meaning?
Yeah, like you do. So when you're reading somebody's cards, and it's funny because this is like the most common thing I do, but I also read palms and the crystal ball and runes. There's all sorts of different types of divination, but essentially, each card has its own meaning, and depending on where it is in a spread, affects that meaning. Like what I do, there's the most common one is the Celtic cross, and I could probably pull it off in a pinch, but my go-to is what I call the hourglass reading. The past is an amalgamation of events. The future is an array of possibility. The only finite moment is now. So it comes out looking like an hourglass. And I like it because it tells more of the backstory. Like you're building up this pattern of events that has happened. You know, you've got at the bottom, you've got this pattern of this life pattern that you're working through.
Gotcha. So the order matters too.
Yeah, the order, how cards are. Like sometimes if you've got one card and then you pull another card that they have a relationship with, then like, you know, if you pull a whole bunch of one suit, or if you pull, and honestly, here's the thing about cards. They are paper. They're paper. You can charge them, you energize them as a psychic, as somebody who works with the cards, you endow them with energy. So I could read my cards one way and somebody else could read their cards in a completely different way. And it's more important because I get this sometimes where people are like, well, just tell me what the cards say. I'm like, I'm telling you what I'm saying because I'm the psychic and the cards are for me to put the story together for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are something for the psychic to kind of reflect off of. And there's definitely been times where I've gone and gotten a reading. I'll never forget. I went to New Orleans and I got this reading from this guy and he pulled one card. He pulled the moon card. And traditionally the moon has to do with illusions. Like if you go and look up the meaning, the tarot meaning of the moon, it's all about illusions. He pulled this one card and then he told me my whole life story. He didn't have to pull another card to tell me my whole life story because he tapped into that energy and was able. And also I'm pretty open book. I try to be an open book so I can help other people. So like if I've got somebody who's wanting to learn something, they can read me pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. How many readings have you done?
I have absolutely no idea. Probably thousands.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say probably thousands at this point. Just, I have absolutely no idea. I probably did 1,000 before I even really became, like before I even kind of started Dottie the Psychic.
Yeah. Wow. So have you ever had a time where you're just like, I'm just not feeling it today. There's nothing going on. Or is it,
you know,
does it depend?
Some days are great. Some days, and it's just like anybody, because I do a lot of this is from a place of faith. You know, it's a place of where how I connect to the universe and sharing my gift with other people. And so there are definitely days where I just don't have a lot of faith in humanity and I would like to stay in my house, please. And then there are other days where I am, you know, helping people shake curses all freaking week. It's been a rough week. Yeah, that
you'll have that.
You'll have that. I had like 3 people in 2 weeks come to me about having dirty magic put on them. And that's another thing. Like we're sitting here talking about tarot cards, and yeah, I think that's an important part of what I do because that's kind of it helps people open up and talk about things. But what I do is I help them spiritually work through things. And that's what most psychics are out there doing. Like, yes, there are tarot card readers who just read and that's what they do. But ultimately, you can't really do the job without having some sort of compassion for humanity. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes that runs a little thin. You get me on a bad day or you pull or say something stupid. That's the quickest way. Ask me for the lottery numbers. That is the quickest way. I'm out.
Well, let me mark that off.
Yeah, no, do not ask me for the lottery numbers. If I had the lottery numbers, I would, for one, we'd be doing this in my studio.
Right.
You know? I wouldn't be out here hustling.
Well, I'm so glad you came in because I told you beforehand, I made a post about, you messaging saying, hey, I'm a witch. I want to be on your podcast. And I posted that. And I thought this would be a good time to educate people and to learn because there's a misconception when you hear the word witch.
Right.
And in some conservative parts of Appalachia, there's just a negative connotation with
right. There's something about me to set somebody off if you want to be set off. There's just nothing I can't get around that. I'm the weirdo. I'm here to be your weirdo for the day. Let's work through this.
Well, and what I think but I hear compassion and humanity and all kinds of these words that correlate across everything.
Right.
So, I guess let's kind of break down your belief system and what does it mean exactly to be a witch? Because when other people hear it that have been, let's just say if they're in Baptist church, because background on me, my grandpa was an old regular Baptist preacher.
Right.
I lean more agnostic. I'm searching and I know that there's energy and that there's a reason we're here. I just don't know exactly what that is yet.
Right.
I just know that a person's, we're born to do something more and to think about others and to create. I just don't know firmly what's on the other side. You know what I mean?
Neither do I. And I've talked to a lot of dead people, and there's too much trying to translate the unknowable into the knowable is it's impossible, right? We have to give each other grace. We have to be graceful with each other, because what I may see as the grand truth is I'm never going to be able to tell you what I feel when I'm doing my workings and things like that. I am connected to something greater than myself in a very real way, and I am moving beyond myself in a very real way. So before I go any further, this is one for my pagans and my witches. Yes, I know there's a difference, but I'm both, so I'm going to kind of wiggle them together. So sorry about that. Sorry about that. It's very I'm not saying so a witch is somebody who does magic, and a pagan is somebody who it's basically alternative religions. It's kind of an umbrella term for a lot of different religions, but essentially you can be one or the other. I'm both. There are a lot of people who are both. There are a lot of people that are one or the other, and there's all sorts of different kinds of witches, because that's again kind of a generic term for anybody who does magic. There's also people who don't consider themselves witches. They call themselves mages. I'm not 100% sure. Why is my phone going off?
Uh-oh, you got to take a shot now. That's studio rules. That's all right. No, but I like where this is. I like where this is going. So, and you mentioned paganism before you came. And I'm excited to learn about that, because how I feel about it is I have so many friends across the spectrum. I have friends who do mission trips in Africa, and they are the sweetest people. I have other friends who are kind of atheists. The only thing I can't get down with is I don't really, religion is so personable to people. And I think as long as something causes you to be a good person, to have a structure, to not discriminate against people for who they are, I think it's beautiful. It's regardless funny of what it is.
Because, as a pagan, I believe in many gods. But one of the things I found, even in Christianity, any group of people, if you have a heart full of hate, then you'll find a hateful God. If you have a heart of love, you'll find a loving God. And I think and it kind of makes me sad, because I've seen a lot of good Christians and a lot of bad Christians. And then they want to sit here and judge me for being pagan. And I'm just a person. I'm a person. I believe differently because I've seen differently. I believe in the gods that believe in me, which is part of why I follow the gods that I do.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. Well, and if it's good Christian or bad Christian, I think it's just good people or bad people. Because
I agree, yeah.
It seems like people find a rationalization on why they're racist or why they're bigoted.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? It's here's the reason. It's because
people will
this
absolutely justify the dumbest crap if they think that they can get by with it.
Sure.
And the cognitive dissonance that people will reach to is ridiculous. Like, you can't tell me, I was telling you, like, we did a pagan pride, broom not vroom, and we had protesters, and they're out there with signs that have slurs on them and telling us all we're going to hell. I'm like, and they're the same ones that show up at regular pride. Like, pagan pride is just about being pagan. It's a family event. We had kids there. But these people are recycling their material from where they're going and protesting gay pride. So they have gay slurs on these things telling us all it's like, okay, well, I guess we're the same groups to them, which is just fine. We are definitely a very open group. We have like our stage is run by one of my favorite drag queens. It's still a kid-appropriate show. We're still keeping it appropriate for families.
Mm-hmm.
But they will sneak in with these stupid little pamphlets. And I read one of those pamphlets. It was called The Executioner. Like, you're passing these out to people. You're leaving them on tables where kids can find them. And they say horrible things. Horrible, frightening things to try and scare people into what?
Yeah, I don't know what the end goal is, because from what I understand is, let's just say Christianity, for instance. From what I understand is you can think I'm going to hell, but you're not supposed to be judgmental and act like, it's really like, I think you will do more good trying to learn and understand and talk to each other.
Right.
And understand each other's beliefs. And maybe they're like, oh, you know what? I really have a lot in common with that. And maybe they'll want to lean towards that, or the other way around. I don't know what happens when you put, like, mean things on a sign and say, look at this.
I don't know either.
But
I will say that I didn't actually get to see a whole lot of the signs, because where we do pagan pride, they won't let them in with the picket signs. They won't let them in to just protest. What we had was a lot of people sneaking in with stuff to drop off on tables and stuff.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But the actual protesters were forced to stay outside of the park, and we were at the back end of the park. And what none of us knew, not the protesters, not myself, was that the park had also booked a kids' soccer tournament that day. So people thought that they were protesting the kids' soccer game.
Yeah.
Oh, it was hilarious. Like, they really did. Like, I can't tell you how many people were like, oh, yeah, my friend thought they were protesting the kids' soccer game. I'm like, what's wrong with this kids' soccer game? They didn't even know we were in the back of the park.
Oh, wow.
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
I think confusion, too, is part of it. It's like, half the time, probably half the crowd doesn't even know that, they get told by, Pastor Fred or whatever, we're going here at this time, bring your Sharpies. And then,
right.
So yeah, I mean, you do. I mean, wars were started because people don't want to try and understand the other person.
I agree.
So it's just I
hate to say this, like, as witches, we didn't do ourselves any favors by calling ourselves witches, and I think that's part of the reason a lot of people refer to themselves as a mage or a practitioner or a crafter instead of a witch, because witch, you think about it, a lot of times they'll use that as a stand-in for the B word. I don't know how much cussing you're going to let me do on this.
Oh, you can cuss. Yeah, we'll beep it.
Like, people say witch instead of bitch.
Right.
All the time. And they still do that. And that's normal. And also, witch was not something that a lot of people put on themselves. It was a title that somebody else put on them as healers and things. Magic used to be way more common because we didn't have things like antibiotics and medicine. A lot of magic is what happened before medicine. There were the herb healers and things like that. And, you wouldn't call them a witch to their face. You'd call them healers.
You had the medicine men in the in Indian culture, was that right?
I mean, like, right here in West Virginia, we had healers. Like, I remember my great grandmother on my dad's side, my dad's mom, because she was, when her mother was pregnant with her her father died. So she was never able to meet her father. And because of that, they believe that gave her certain abilities. And she could blow in your ear to fix an earache, or she could make sorrel cough syrup. And there were certain passages in the Bible that you can read to stop bleeding and things like that. And those are pretty common. Everybody's great grandmother knew how to do those, because if you were out on a farm, if you're out in the rural area, you know, this is West Virginia. We're the last ones to get technology. We're the last ones to get, even if you live out in the woods now, it may be 30 minutes for the ambulance to show up. So
yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of correlation with today of like rural areas not having hospital access.
Right.
So yeah.
So a lot of times they'll go with those old ways of doing things. And that's a lot of what like the Appalachian traditional magic has come out of, is a lot of those legends. And people aren't always nice. Some of it's bad magic, and some of it's trying to deal with other people doing bad magic. There's always a freaking witch war going on somewhere.
Right.
But,
so there's like turf wars, or like
sometimes, but
right.
It's petty. Okay, like I don't probably need to talk about this, but it's petty. There's always out there somebody trying to get and a lot of times, like, there's things like a lot of the internet has broke it down into like curses, hexes, and jinxes. And I prefer to call it a whammy. Like, you've got jinxes where, you know, like you say something about somebody, you talking bad about them and their ear itches. But also, if you just, every time you see somebody and they make you angry, you give them that glare, then you put an evil eye on them, basically. And it'll mess somebody up. Like, it's not something to just toy with. And people who are not emotionally prepared to deal with other things will often project. And a lot of that's what goes on. And it can be pretty nasty. So you're bringing people in, you got to do the cleansing, and then you got to talk about why you think you got that in the first place. And then there's like hexes where somebody actually intentionally put something on you. And then there are curses, and those are more rooted into the person and have to be, usually they can take quite a bit to remove, depending on how active the person is that put it on them and how deeply rooted it is in the person. I'm gonna have to do a video on that.
Have you ever?
I have to watch this to remember what I told myself I was going to do.
So I have a couple questions, but have you ever, has there been a dark time in your life where you're like, you know what, screw Cindy Lou, I'm gonna hex a piss out of her, or or anything. I mean, listen, I'm the jokester, so if I say something disrespectful, instantly tell me, because I don't mean to be. But
it's funny that you should say that. Yes, I have. I know I'm not better than anybody out here. I'm not proud of it, certainly, but also I'm not going to pretend like I didn't. And who hasn't done some dumb high school crap? Like, you start a fight with somebody just to start a fight. And I have certainly had those moments in my life. One that really comes to mind was somebody was talking crap about me. And I wanted them to stop talking crap about me. Like, I'm trying to build my business. A bad reputation can really set you back, especially in the psychic world, where all you really have is your reputation that is built a single person at a time. So if you've got somebody out there running their mouth just because they're a bigger, better, well-known psychic at the time, you want to stop them from doing that. And so I did some high school level bullshit, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Sorry. Perfect. No, that's great. Go ahead. Listen, you can cuss as much as you want.
I did some high school level BS, and I wanted them to taste poop every time they talked poop. I'm trying to, I wanted them to, and it backfired because I did it wrong. I knew better. Okay, y'all. I knew better. I know better. I do better.
Did you taste poop instead?
It backfired so bad that I ended up in the ER.
Oh no.
I thought I had a GI bleed. It was bad. It was bad. Like, I had this really just rank wine. I was hanging out with my girlfriend and we're just talking crap. And we were drinking this awful wine, and it turned my tongue black and it tasted like crap for 2 days.
Wow.
And I am taking Pepsi because I feel miserable. And that's like one of the hallmarks of being hexed. One of the hallmarks of being cursed is that you just feel absolutely run down, like put through the mill. And so I feel like awful. I ended up going to the ER. It's one of the few times I went to the ER, and I ended up getting like fluids and finding out I had a kidney stone, and that I thought I had a GI bleed because I don't know because my poop was a certain texture and color. I was like, oh no, I've really hurt myself. Turns out it was like the Pepsid I had been taking to deal with my upset stomach and a dehydration.
Right.
But I ended up having to basically undo my own work, and it's.
Did you read something wrong? Did you like misplace or?
No, I didn't. Okay, so sometimes when you're binding things together, when you're doing stuff like that, you then have to deal with whatever it is you've put together.
Mm.
So like you are trying to put somebody in their place, so you put things together with their name in it, and I didn't get it off of my property. I just like, okay, I'm going to put this where I can find it so I can undo it. Then I couldn't find it. That's probably why it lasted for a couple of days. I ended up having to break it a different way, which is fine. But it's also just the level of high school crap I was pulling right here. I know better. I knew better. I knew better when I was doing it, but I was mad, which is another reason why you should think out your spell work if you're going to do spell work. I mean, it doesn't matter now. Like, it's all figured out now. And I'm not proud of it, but it happened. And there's your cautionary tale, kids.
I mean, that's good to know. Did you watch The Craft?
I love The Craft.
Okay.
Like, I was part of the Craft generation. Not going to lie. Like, so I still love The Craft.
We probably graduated around the same time. I graduated in 03.
04.
Okay, yeah. So The Craft was a huge movie in the 90s.
Huge.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was responsible for a whole generation of witches. So it's funny because my my ex-girlfriend now, she's not a traditional witch because she's not part of a tradition, but she's a generational witch. So she's a pagan. So she was kind of upset about The Craft because she's like, you got a whole bunch of these people who are cosplaying witchcraft. You know, a lot of us have matured beyond that point. And that's the thing, like, these movies, this media brings people in. And so you have this mass wave of people who are really, really into this one thing. And then you kind of have to watch a big chunk of them fall off because they were just like looking for something to do with their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get people like me who saw The Craft as a kid. And now I'm out here doing The Craft for realsies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said the binding thing. I remember the she does the binding spell toward the end.
Yeah.
Against Nancy. Yeah. That made me think of that. Are there different denominations, like how Christianity has like Methodist and Baptist and,
what? That's kind of funny. Wouldn't call them denominations. They're different religions. Like, paganism is an umbrella, a type of religion. And then they would be like different religions. And then in those different religions, they've got different groups that maybe break off there, like traditions.
Right.
A lot of traditions. Like Wicca has so many different traditions. And a lot of them, they're usually like 3 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So you start out with somebody who is like a neophyte, an acolyte, and then like a master. That's Western occultism. That's one type of degree program. So a lot of these, like, you have to study for however long it takes for you to get through each individual degree to move up the ladder before becoming like clergy. Mm-hmm. And then there's people like me who I've been practicing my whole life, but I'm mostly a solo practitioner. So I don't really have I don't have a church. I got a group of girls I work with. I got a group of people we've all had like similar experiences and we sit down and talk about it, but it's not like we go to mass. There's no black mass around here.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, is there like is Wednesdays y'all's day or and you go and you meet, but no, I guess that answered that question.
Right. We do go and do some cool stuff under the full moon. Like, I think everybody likes to get out, especially if it's a nice clear night like we had not last night but the night before. there's like 3 days to really work with a full moon. The night before, the night of, and the night after. The night before was super clear. That was like Sunday night. And I'm sure everybody was out there making their moon water, but we're all doing our own individual things. Sometimes people will get together and do stuff, but and there are covens. I'm not personally part of a coven. I know people who, it's a very tight-knit group. So I'm gonna keep my mouth shut about covens because I don't think I'm going to be speaking. Like, I'm not speaking to people who would know enough to understand the drama, okay?
Well, it's human nature.
It is, and it's small groups, and I know plenty of good ones and plenty of bad ones, and that's
that's how it
is.
No, that's relatable. So let's break down. I want to talk about the tenets of paganism first. Is there a certain structure on how you live your life to say you're a pagan, or what is the typical belief? From what I understand, there's a lot of earth and organic elements.
So there's a little bits of different religions that we all kind of agreed on to work with. Like, there's heathenism is a type of paganism. They tend to work more with the Asatru and the vineyard, and I can't remember. That's all, I can't pronounce the names because they're northern. My brain just went totally blank.
I got what you're saying.
There's the heathens who they have a certain pantheon, like Odin and Freya and Thor and Loki and Baldur. Yeah, Baldur. Oh my God, I was trying to say Mjolnir and Baldur at the same time. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
This is how you get
Thor and Loki.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of down with that. Marvel Comics?
No.
Oh, it's different. Okay.
Yeah, it's different. It's fine, though. I get it.
Okay.
We like that. Look, most of the heathens I know are kind of cool with the comic books. There's media that gets you into this kind of thing a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
You get into because you see how cool Thor is on the TV, and then you learn about the real Thor and how those energies interact in your environment and how you can work with the world you're living in to live a better life, to be more at peace. Mm-hmm. And I'm bringing up the heathen specifically because they have a distinct set of 9 noble virtues. And I understand why they have a bad reputation, but it's funny that even though a lot of times when people think of the heathens and the 9 noble virtues and things like that, they think of white supremacy. But also here in West Virginia, it's one of the most diverse groups in the pagan community. Not because other groups aren't as welcoming, but just because of the structure of how we run it around here. It's just easier to join.
I got you.
Well,
and I always heard heathen as a derogatory term, and I never knew what it meant. So now,
right, and that's
learning.
Another thing. See, that's another thing. Like paganism, which was a derogatory term. Pagan. If you talk to some people who are a generation older than we are, that's why the motorcycle gang is called pagans. It's because they were godless. They were considered godless. And it's no, it's many gods. And a lot of times when you say heathen, especially the Native American community, kind of takes a little offense because if you think about it, a lot of times that's how they were referred to, as heathens. And so now that the Norse pagans are kind of taking that term as theirs, reclaiming it, there's still that, most day-to-day people, when they hear heathen, they just think of somebody who's godless. I'm nope, we got all the gods. Most of them, anyway.
I got you. Well, and there's holidays, the most popular holidays are technically pagan holidays, right? Is that why? So you got Santa Claus, you got the Easter Bunny. Is that why, did the pagans transform these religious meanings behind these dates to be able to celebrate? Or, because Christmas would be obviously the birth of Jesus, but also, we got Santa Claus, and then you have Easter, who's the resurrection of Jesus Christ, but also you got the Easter Bunny. So is that way so everyone can dive in?
Oh my God. Looking into the etymology of holidays is guaranteed to piss everyone off.
I mean, I just want to learn because a lot of people, they'll go to church and then there'll be Santa Claus visiting,
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. Here's the thing. Nobody's living in a vacuum. Nobody's living in a vacuum. And it's not like it's pagans. And you can still hear, like, I remember listening to the Malice Maleficarium, and it talked about pagans just being the uneducated folk of the land. So
the Appalachians.
Like we're a perfect example. But the thing is, a lot of times, people who were already living there, if you want to sell a religion, you can kind of just sneak it in by adapting what they've already got. So it's not so much that it was like stolen. The people there reconciled their new faith without giving up their old faith. And so we do have these, and also, legends develop over time. This is also the time when, like, the egg hunt around this time is when chickens start laying eggs again. I had to do a real egg hunt up at I call him Maw-Daw because he was a female impersonator from the 70s. But he's like, I call him my Maw-Daw-in-law. We were up on his mountain and he has chickens. He lets free range. So we went on an egg hunt to try and find all these chicken eggs before they went bad. You can't use them because they'll just lay wherever they please. And so a lot of that, the rabbits start coming out at the same time. So there is still a response to nature. And I think a lot of our holidays are marking the calendar in a way, which is also part of why I am pagan, is because those are naturally marked. We are trying to be more in tune with the seasons, more in tune with the earth that we live on, working with the spirits of the land, working with, the energies that are here to be more ecologically minded.
You're like the organic farmers of the spiritual world.
Trying to be. Yeah. Not always, and not all of us are. Like, and that's the thing, is like, again, that's witchcraft. People are people. Nobody is a monolith. Nobody is 100% doing the right thing. And I certainly have things that I would like to correct in my life, like I think we all do. But yeah, basically, in a perfect world, we would be more connected. And also, a lot of people in the pagan community are practicing alone. Like, they'll go up in the mountains and just do their own thing. So there's no real telling. Like, it's just about being closer to your personal spirituality.
Yeah, which everyone could, if we put the phones away and we are in tune, there's this thing called grounding that I think there's something with.
You know what? This is funny because this is my personal gripe, because I personally think that psychology stole a lot from the occult community. But to be fair, the occult community stole it from everywhere else. That's a whole long speech that I need to come with my research before I actually say this. But the grounding thing, it is a psychological technique, but also it is a spiritual technique. And when you do it with a spiritual technique, I think you get way more out of it, because you are kind of connecting to the energies that connect to us all. Especially with grounding, you're essentially reconnecting with the earth.
Yeah, and for someone who doesn't know, it's essentially walking around barefooted.
Yeah, that's one way. That's one way to do it. There's actually a lot of different ways to do it. That's the most common. That's the easiest. Like, you don't have to think about it. Just getting your feet on the ground helps to, and it's kind of an electrical charge. You think about, you're walking around in your socks all day, building up this electrical charge that's bound to irritate you enough to start kind of making things a little fuzzy. And then you go and you take your shoes off and you literally ground, and suddenly you can think better because you're not carrying around this excess charge. So that's kind of how people can think about it. But there are other ways that you can sort of mitigate that excess charge. My favorite, the one that I can teach you like in 10 minutes or less, is, I call it the tree meditation. I don't remember where I got it from. It's ubiquitous in the community. But essentially, you can sit wherever you are and you imagine your feet are kind of growing into the earth.
Yeah.
It's
kind of meditating.
Yeah. Yeah. So you take like a deep breath in, and as you're releasing, you feel yourself growing into the earth. And as you breathe out, I don't know if I got that backwards. As you breathe out, you're breathing out your stress and your tension. And you breathe in, you draw in the nutrients, the energies, the life-giving force of the earth up into you and all the way. And then you breathe out into the sky. and feel the warmth coming down. And as you breathe in that warmth of the sky down into yourself. And as you breathe out, you see those energies mixing within yourself and you find that strength. And it's a great meditation. And that's...
Oh, yeah. See, that's so... so I meditate. I haven't done it as much as I'd like to. But if someone's listening, if you just sat in a quiet room in a chair and take deep breaths, it is amazing how instantly, at least for me, I feel better.
Right.
And more at tune, you know?
Right. And it is kind of like one of those, and it's funny because I hear a lot of people like, oh, yoga and meditation are the first steps to witchcraft, and they're kind of right, kind of wrong. kind of yes, kind of no, because you kind of have to learn how to do that stuff to really do work as a witch, because you've got to learn how to control your emotion, because the energy you put into something is the energy you're going to get out. And you want to be able to put the energy in that you want to get out. But also it's just good for your psyche to kind of take a break. Because, you know, being able to calm yourself, being able to sit down and have a moment to yourself and control your breathing can be vital in a situation where you're about to scream at your boss.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great way to, you know, quit on purpose instead of rage quitting.
Sure. Thoughtfully quit.
Quit. Yes. Make a plan before you catch a charge.
Yeah, thoughtfully instead of impulsively.
Right.
Yeah. And it's good we walk through this because, you know, witch in conservative Appalachia means they think you're sharpening the devil's pitchfork, you know, and handing
That's true. That's what they think I'm doing with the devil's pitchfork.
Yeah. So this is
I've been told I'm doing a lot of things with the devil's pitchfork.
Well, yeah. So I'm glad. So let's talk about being a Wiccan, because that's the main thing I've heard is like, oh, you know, Lucy's a Wiccan. And I'm like, what is that? When I was a kid, you know?
Yeah, I know. And here's the thing, oh my God. So there is a lot of just chit chat amongst the pagan witch community about what some of these terms means. And a lot of terms mean, and Wicca kind of did get watered down to mean everybody, because there is no central, and I think that's a big thing. There is no central defining answer, and you're going to get gatekeepers, and you're going to get people who you're going to get gatekeepers and cosplayers. You're going to get gatekeepers that think that they are the right and only way, and that anybody else is weaker, stupid, or fake. And then you're going to get people who will not do the work necessary to actually consider it a real practice. They will lean on it like a crutch to try and solve all their problems and spiral out. That's why you see so many witches that are also addicted to meth. I'm like, some of them, they may have had some real power, but they've let it get robbed. They've let themselves be robbed.
Well, see, and I've heard too of conservative Christians saying, well, that's the Lord punishing them for witchcraft.
That is
and then
so
I'm like,
gross.
Well,
That is disturbing.
I mean, yeah. So, I mean, I've heard things of just by having you in that I'm bringing damnation on my family. And I'm like, this is weird.
I mean, if that's oh my God. So
that's why this conversation's so important.
This is why this conversation's so important. Because I got that letter from you and I was like, I remember you some of my viewers have concerns. I'm like, I bet they do. Because they can't just let other people live their life, because they believe so strongly in what they believe that they have no room in their psyche for anything that might be oppositional. And that's a cult.
Sure. Well, yeah. Well, and two, you got to look. So I try to play devil's advocate with everything, and I didn't mean to pun there.
Some people who actually do worship the devil, and they're decent enough people.
Well, so I mean, if you want to and then when you talk about Satanism being very earthly oriented, right, then they're like, wait a minute,
Satanism's something totally different. It's actually because there's theistic Satanism and atheistic Satanism. So there are people who work with Satan as an adversary of God, it's kind of hard to explain, but basically the adversary of
the Lord,
totalitarianism.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't really.
It's not really what you think it is. It is in a way because they are oppositional. They can be a little bit oppositional. But they are literally, and it is kind of a response to that kind of Christianity, the damnation kind of Christianity, the kind of, because there is, and we all know those people who cannot accept anyone in their life that does not fit in a very distinct box. But there's a lot of us that are never going to fit into that very distinct box. And we have a right to live. We have a right to be who we are. And so that kind of has created this in the opposite of Christianity. It almost is like Christianity, but it's the other end.
Right. Well, I mean, let's put.
It's really hard to explain, and it's not my thing. But like, I know people.
No, that makes sense. But so I put myself in their shoes of like, you're told a certain thing your whole life.
Right.
Now, granted, if it's right or wrong, of course, I think if you're discriminating on people for who they are, who they were born as, I think it's wrong. But I'm still willing to talk to you and kind of converse and figure out how we relate on ideas, because humans relate more than they don't.
They do.
It's just, someone comes at somebody else saying, here's what you need to do. And then that person's like, I ain't going to do that. And
that's
then
kind of
they do the same thing.
And this is the way I've looked at like a lot of like the theistic Satanists or the people who work with demon spirits and things like that. It's almost like I was like, I just can't get involved in somebody else's 2,000-year-old divorce drama. I just can't. And I'm not going to sit here and because I have been on there ain't no hate like Christian love sometimes. Like, and I say that there are good Christians. My mom was a good Christian. I believe there's so many good people who follow and are like Christ, who are Christ-like. They are willing to go out and sit with the people who are homeless, going out there and working food pantries and things like that. And as far as I'm concerned, I'll always try to keep space for people like that, but also protecting our space. And you can't pretend like there's not going to be, if somebody is taught all their life that Jesus is love, but Jesus hates you, you're not going to want to follow that religion anymore. You're going to, and then people swing so hard in the other direction. That's how we get things like, and like a lot of the Satanists are atheists. They don't believe in anything outside of themselves, but they don't also believe they're fighting Christian nationalism.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something I can't, a lot of atheists can be downright mean about it.
Or they can.
And that's kind of, I think that's where the issues lie, because I don't feel like, if you, first off, the King James version is an interpretation of the original Bible. So all of this is us interpreting what we're reading. And some interpretations really go dark. And some of them are like, you know what? It comes down to this, believe Jesus died, love people like you love yourself, and treat people right. But other times it's like, this passage says that I have to hate gay people. And this passage says that, it has some kind of a political affiliation or other things.
You know what?
But when it comes down to it, like if from what I've read, Jesus would hate all of these televangelists taking everyone's money.
He was like flipping table. You know what? I'm not a Christian, so I'm not. I don't think it's probably fair for me to speak on this. But I've got a friend who's a Quaker. He has studied the Bible front, back, and up the center, and he has decided he's a trans man. He is a Quaker. We'll see. I'll talk to him and see if I can get him on your show. But his name is Ollie from the Mothman Ministries.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get him on here. He may have a little hard time getting down here, but I'll send you his stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Remind me later.
Okay, yeah.
But let's change the subject, because honestly, like I'm not Christian. I'm not involved in like the 2,000-year-old divorce trauma that I really think. And I think that's the thing, is a lot of it is a lot of like the darker things that people think they're darker, but a lot of the people who are out there practicing that
sure
are not bad people either.
Right.
And I think that's hard for people to stomach. They have this idea.
Well, there's good people and bad people across the spectrum. It's the same thing of people pointing at Appalachia and saying, "Look at these idiots!
Yeah,
Look at these inbred."
And
exactly. So I think there's a lot of just miscommunication.
well,
and
I mean, honestly, when our three biggest exports are coal, our educated youth, and poverty porn, it's kind of hard to think that people are going to think any different.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and that's part of this too and I'm glad you said it. Like, I have friends that are, some of the most dedicated Christians, and I've consulted all of these people. I'm like, hey, I'm having a witch on. What do you think? And then they're like, man, I believe in talking. I believe in talking to people. I believe in learning. And, I've talked to the other side. I was like, yeah, why not? Why can't people have these things called conversations? So I just, I think it's important for people to hear, because
I do too. I do too. And I'm glad you had me. It was funny because I was like, just sometimes this is how I work with the universe. Like I find a flow in the energy. That's where I live, is try to live in a state of flowing energy, because I'm a water sign. That works for me. And I believe in a lot of of course I believe in divination. I'm a psychic. But like as a witch, also you try to find that energy flow. And it just happened that another friend of mine had come on here. His name was Michael.
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah. I saw him on there. I was like, I watched his podcast. I'm like, I want to see if I can get on that show too. And I was like, what is the most interesting thing about me?
I'm like, well, you nailed it. I mean, like there's so much more though, but obviously the opening line is basic marketing.
It's like, I'm a witch and I'm a pagan and I'm the president of Metro Valley Pagan Pride.
Oh, yeah. So what is that?
Okay, so this is what I really wanted to talk about, was Metro Valley Pagan Pride, because this is my solution to a real problem in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Partially because there's a lot of religious trauma in the community that makes it hard to want to be a part of a group. And also like you can be a pagan and have completely different ideas of how the universe works, but we tend to kind of flock together. So we're trying to create it is a nonprofit. Like, we got our nonprofit status. We have a yearly event, Broom Not Vroom, Pagan Pride. And we do that every year, but we're also trying to build programming. But the idea was so that people don't have to feel so alone. Because like, every pagan in the valley thinks they're the only pagan in the valley. We are very kind of broke up. It's like everybody's kind of on their own journey. They find a book or they find a resource. They find TikTok. And everybody starts somewhere. Mm-hmm. But when we have a community, we can handle things together, because I do believe in this, when you are working with the energies of the universe, it's like praying, and you'll see it happen. And sometimes you need somebody to talk to about that. Or if you, this is a big one in high school, a lot of times, people are just starting to find their place in life. They're starting to find their magic. And so one person goes one way and then another person goes the other way. And then you've got people doing magic against each other, and you kind of need somebody to step in as an adult, but also like having a kind of centralized group to kind of work with makes it harder for little cults of personality to pop up, because then they have resources outside of themselves. They're not the only witches in the valley. We're everywhere. The paganism is it's born of the people. And so we've kind of popped up everywhere, and it's time to kind of not necessarily solidify. I would never ask somebody to believe what I believe because you haven't seen what I've seen. But certainly I can work together with people who believe differently than I am. And a pagan dominant space has never been a pagan exclusive place. Mm-hmm. When it is like a generic pagan space, we often get like Christians that are kind of on the line, like Christian mystics. That's a whole different topic right there. If you're a Christian mystic out there, that would be a great.
I didn't know that was a thing.
It is and they're usually pretty fantastic people. Like, I've never really met a Christian mystic, because they know they're in such a weird spot. They're usually like They're some of the most open and kind people. And with the wildest life stories, I'm like, how did you end up here? Because this is a weird spot to be. Because, Christian or Christo-pagans, a lot of Christo-pagans. And sometimes it's somebody who's going from one side to the other.
Right.
Because there are people like, you may test the waters here and just not feel quite right and move on to something different or something like that. Because, it's very much trying to find who you are.
Mm-hmm. Well, Michael is a Christian psychic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's super cool. Like they're all like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're every Christian psychic, every Christian mystic that I've worked with the exception of few. I've had some that were a little judgy. I have had some that are a little judgy because of course. But most of them are super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find that with most people, period. Like,
right.
Rarely do I have a negative interaction face to face with anyone. I mean, it's very rare. But then again, you don't know who people really are.
Yeah, we'll see the comment section when we get on.
I mean, that's fine. And I've been surprised by the lack of negativity there. I mean, I haven't had time to read everything, I'm very grateful for. Right. But in general, people are just wanting to learn,
Yeah, and I think, you know what? And I do think that we focus on the lowest common denominator as people. We're always looking, because it's natural to want to protect, and to do that, we watch the worst parts, the worst aspects. And so they get more attention, and where attention goes, energy flows. And so we feed them. And that's the big thing. It's not like feeding into it.
That Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's pointing off the couch like, oh, I found it. I found your flaw, just trying to figure out some way to hate you. I don't know. Or to not like you, if that makes sense. Like, they're just like, I'm just waiting. There's something there. I know, like...
Yeah, because they got nothing.
I can't really get along with you.
There's a lot of people who just don't have enough going on in their life.
Sure,
Or they've got too much and they're looking for a distraction.
But they're also stressed, too.
Yeah.
They're overworked.
Underpaid.
Too much screen time, making people anxious, and
the world is crashing down around our ears perpetually, like in live...
On screens, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean... And everyone's life experience is different, but, I know which you were an 80s baby too. So growing up in the 90s,
it was like one disaster after another.
Right. Well, you had, my biggest disaster was Kurt Cobain dying. That was sad, but you never really heard much about, at least I didn't. I didn't really hear much about things.
I don't think, and that's the thing is like, I don't think we were as plugged in. Like, I don't think things happened any less. I just think that
didn't hear about it.
We were not as plugged in.
Sure.
We were not as digitally attached to one another.
Yeah.
It was, and then like a lot of it, like, I don't think like a lot of things would have been able to have happened the way they have happened back in the 90s because of the delay in communication.
Sure.
Yeah.
And there's good and bad parts. Like, of course, I'd rather be alive now because I think technology-wise, information-wise, you can do some really incredible things if you want and you're creative enough.
Right.
But at the same time, it can be a little much.
Right. I believe in multiple lives. I'm sure I know that I can. It is funny because this is one of those moments. Like, it's kind of hard to share because it's upsetting sometimes to do past life regression because essentially you are in some ways imagining your own death. But to look back at past lives, you can learn a lot of different things. So like, it doesn't bother me to live this life or what's coming after that. But also it's kind of hard we're put in this existence to have this experience in order to evolve spiritually. That's what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And there's too much, even at the rapid rate we're going now, there's too much for any one spirit to learn it all in one life. And I feel that way partially because there are people I can see evolving who don't live long enough to quite get there. There's, children die, things like that. And it's much easier to handle if you think that this is just one round. Like, this is just one round that we have to go through and to try and do the best we can. And unfortunately, it also kind of puts me, especially when I'm in a bad mood, because like just being a deeply spiritual person does not make me immune to mental health issues. So when I'm in a depressive episode, it makes it much easier to think of it that way. I tend to sometimes think of this reality as a meat grinder. Like, we're down here to be processed in a way. This is the only dimension where there's pain and suffering. So if this is where we have to experience these are things we've come here to experience. This terror, this anxiety, and taking that and not being overwhelmed and using that to some good is spiritual evolution to me. Whatever that energy is. And that's why I'm actually and that's part of my personal faith.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really a pagan idea. That is something I've gathered from spending too much time in too many occult rabbit holes,
Sure. No, yeah. Well, and it is a deeply personal journey. I don't think any one Christian or any one Muslim or anyone's experience is exactly the same.
Right.
It's
be a pretty boring place if we're all the same.
Yeah, you work through things. You work through it and you try to figure it out, and hopefully it ends up in a positive direction. But so when and I suffer from anxiety and depression, and sometimes I get in these moods and it's hard to get out of. Like,
yeah.
What for you tends to help working your way out of that hole?
Honestly, getting back into my spiritual practice, because it is a routine. Like, a good spiritual practice is a daily routine. It's assigning meaning to brushing your teeth. It is when you get in the shower and you take your shower, you're also metaphysically cleansing your spirit. You're changing your energy. You're letting that water not just flow over you, but through you. And by doing that, it gets me back on a physical routine, for one, because the ADHD, y'all, it's real. It's a thing, and it happened to me. But, especially with that, I have to be careful to try and rebuild a routine. So when I go through and I have a magical routine, it means more to me. It attaches more of an emotional charge to these mundane activities, and it makes it easier to take better care of my body. And when I take care of my body, I feel better, and I'm better able to be a psychic. I'm better able to take care of, myself and my clients and my husband and my life. I'm better able to pull my shit together.
Right. No, yeah. I relate a lot to that. Like, for me, it's like having a routine of, like, I'll do exercise and I'll do, and when I eat better and I feel better, it's hard for me to do, but I just try to get in that routine of like, all right, well, from this time to this time, I'm going to work out. This time to this time, I'm going to, do my screen time in my work, and then make sure to put your phone down for a certain amount of time and play Uno with my daughter every night, and, different stuff like that helps me. So yeah, I relate to that big time. All right. So tell me about, we got the deep stuff out of the way. Tell me about some times where, maybe you got a little, it was a little scary or potentially, You
want to hear
humorous?
about the time I got cursed?
Yeah.
Okay, so you thought we were out of the woods. You thought we were out of the weeds, but no, baby, we're only about halfway through.
Perfect.
I live at the bottom of the freaking river, man. So, Dottie the Psychic is a wizard's mask that I have created for myself. And so this is one of those occult things I can teach you all really quick.
Sure.
Essentially, I created this character that I wanted to become because I was in a very, very dark place. My ex-husband, I don't want to go in too hard on him because he was a person, but also he was best of a bad bunch. And I'm pretty sure that somebody cursed us on our wedding. I've no proof because there's no 100% proof when it comes to magic. There's pretty obvious, and then there's like paranoia that comes with it. You always, if you can't, I don't think I could trust somebody who didn't question their mind at this point in my life, just a little bit. Because if you can't question your mind, then I'm not sure this is going to work. You know what I mean? Like if you can't stop and be like, did I actually see that? Do I actually know what I know? Because of things like this. So I was married for 8 years, and I think it ended up being 9 total, but 8 that I was actually like married with him. And it's a slow creeping burn. You don't realize you're cursed at first. It's very hard because it's almost got to gear up to feed off of you. And that's what makes it a curse, is that it feeds off your fear. It feeds off your anxiety. And so it starts off as little things like just not being able to keep up at work or feeling like you're falling behind. And then it starts with little arguments, and like the relationship itself was abusive, but then also all my plants died and my dogs and the cat, and like we lost a cat to very weird circumstances. And yeah, and we got 2 puppies. I've still got Luther, and he kept Titus, but we had puppies, and they would start barking into the darkness, and there were weird footprints in my house that didn't match anybody who lived there. And it was kind of funny because that's when I started getting into the cult. I'm like, oh crap, am I feeding this thing? Am I creating this thing? Because you can create a thought form. How do I describe thought forms? Thought forms are like prayers that take on their own reality. They become a force of themselves. We put the energy in them. So when you start to create an energy, when you start to create a thought form that is feeding off of your fear and is created by you to hurt yourself, that is a curse. And it will start to manifest in some very scary, real ways. All my house plants dying, like they didn't just freaking die. A couple of, like a window, we left the house and one of my windows popped open and 2 of the plants froze. And then another house plant started getting all these weird worms crawling up through it that ate all the roots. Like it was not just that they died. I didn't just forget to water them. They died in bad ways. And like just the slowly watching all the plant life around the outside of the house, like all like it was my grandmother's house, and they just started dying off, like the trees, the dogwoods, the holy wood. So if your dogwood suddenly die, trees die. Like, yeah, things move forward, things die, things live. It's a cycle of life. But when they start dying off, then it's a sign. At one point, and then this, like in the middle of this, I'm like, I actually drew my own oracle deck during this. I'm starting to get back into my personal occult practice because I'm just trying to find myself again after working in nursing home. Which, if you ever want to do a real investigation, just go and visit your local nursing home or go to the bar. Those are where the ghosts are. I've never been to a bar that wasn't just teetotally haunted. Yeah, every single one of them. There's like, your local bar is probably more haunted than your local abandoned building.
Oh, wow. I wonder why.
I don't know, but every time, and I've talked to other psychics who are like, yeah, I'm like, sorry, did not.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, it's all right.
You know, I've talked to other psychics who will say the same thing, that they'll be like, you go into a bar and you're a whole lot more likely to see people just like shooting past you. Like if you're going to see like a full bodied figure out of the corner of your eye. I'll never forget. I was up there I was doing a reading in like Morgantown for some reason. I was in a bar, this event was, and this guy waves at me from the corner, and I was like, hi, and I go to get a drink. I'm like, hey, you know that guy? Turn around, no guy.
Oh, wow.
And the bartender's like, yeah, we know that guy. Because the bartender knew exactly what happened. Like instantly, I was like, hey, who's that guy? And I go and point at an empty corner, like, yeah, we know that guy. But
so it's a known thing. It was
a known thing. It's a known thing in most bars. But so it wasn't actually like long after that. Like, and here's the thing, like a lot of a curse is in your head. So to sit here and talk about it, you can't talk about that without talking about the serious mental health issues that go along with it that you have to address separately. When you're dealing with something deeply magical and dark, you also have to do other things that are not magical to deal with it. Like, especially with curses, you need to go to therapy. There's something that is fundamentally wrong with the way that you are conducting your day-to-day life, and that is what it is feeding off of. And going to therapy and figuring out how you are screwing yourself over can be a big step in breaking that.
Yeah. So you're not blaming the whole thing on a curse. Like, you're not saying a curse gave me diabetes. It's like, no, that's not what I'm saying.
It's a slow creeping kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And that's another thing. But like there are certain hallmarks, like food going bad. That's a big one. If your food is going bad before its expiration date all the time, like, first thing, check your fridge. Be smart about it. Maybe you're not practicing proper food safety. Maybe we need to take a little time out and check. But also, if your fridge is working fine, but your milk isn't lasting 2 days in your fridge, that's a bad sign. A lot of illness all at once from all different directions. Like, if you keep kidney infections. If you keep a UTI, why? Like, sometimes working through those energetic things, like, you do this along with other things. Like, when you do a spiritual practice, when you do a spiritual cleansing, you're not just doing that. You're doing that in tandem with real life stuff. Like, this is something you add to your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny. So, like, I'm in this dark place. I'm under the curse. I don't know it because and that's another thing. There's always enough there to make you think that maybe I'm just crazy. If you're questioning your sanity, like, and there was some gaslighting going on, not like. So again, I don't want to make him sound less human, but also there was some gaslighting going on.
Gotcha.
And I also like it was toxic,
which basically just means adding fuel to the fire. Of like, okay.
Gaslighting means that they are telling you something happened and it didn't happen, or they're telling you something didn't happen that it did. But what he would do was it was the story that happened, but it was somehow altered. It was always in a way that he was always the victor, the victim, never the villain, even though I was there and I saw different. Like, this is not, when I look at him and say, that's not how it happened this way because it was your fault. And he's like, no, it wasn't. It happened this way.
Like a narcissist type behavior.
Yeah. So there was some of that, and it'll make you question your sanity. Like, you really got to sit down and question and go through. And if you see something, you saw something. And that's another one thing I tell people. Like, a lot of times kids will tell them there's something dark in their room. Like, could it be melatonin? Yes, it could be melatonin. But also, your kid saw something. And acknowledging real stress. And that's what things like, so when people come to me, it's not always a curse. Sometimes it's meth.
Right.
Sometimes it's severe mental health issues. They are not exclusive. They're not mutually exclusive. So there are other things that need to be addressed as well. And I've lost my place because ADHD.
No. Yeah. So everything's decaying around you.
Yeah. Okay. So everything's decaying. So I started doing these cards. I actually have the cards with me. I'll show you.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I started drawing this deck. I started to be like, who do I really want to be? Because I don't want to be this. I actually reached a point where content warning. I did try to exit this world in an abrupt manner at my own will.
I'm glad you're still here.
I am too. Most of the day, like, it is one of those things, like, it still echoes. Like, that's the thing, is like, I broke the curse, but there's still that call of the void that never fully goes away. And it's kind of like, once you've seen the truth beyond this world, it's hard to want to be here all the time. And that's just a personal struggle. That's always going to be there.
I know
it is what it is,
Yeah, and it's a struggle a lot of people go through, man. Stuff gets heavy.
It gets heavy, and it's and you thought we were out of the weeds, didn't you?
No. Oh, listen, we're diving deep in the weeds.
Hit the. You know what? I'm a Pisces. Let's go all the way to the bottom.
All right.
So I started making these cards here. If you want to check them out.
Oh yeah.
I'll let you take those. That'll be fun to edit later.
Oh no, you're fine.
So I started,
oh wow, so you made these?
Yeah, I did. I drew those. And that was one of the simplest little things. It's 100 blank index cards.
Does it matter what if I shuffle them?
Go ahead.
Okay.
But just be gentle with them. They are a little old. They don't come out anymore because I've actually redid the deck. I'm getting ready to redo the deck. Yeah, redo the deck again. It's kind of been part of the Dottie evolution because that was kind of one of the first things I really did to start getting back into being Dottie the Psychic. I started to create this character, Dottie the Psychic. What would Dottie the Psychic do? Who is Dottie the Psychic?
Right.
I'm Dottie the Psychic, but what is Dottie the Psychic? Dottie the Psychic is out there doing boss shit.
Right.
Right. Dottie the Psychic is out there living life, and
these are cool designs. How do
Thank you.
Is there a process? How do you think of this stuff?
some of them, like that one on top there, that to make sure you point that up the right way, I guess, but like that one, there's a lot of different occult symbolism in there. And I was getting back into my study. Like it was a process. Becoming who I am intentionally has been a long road. And that was kind of the first steps. It was kind of getting back into like occultism's kind of self-help for weirdos.
Right.
It's part of why I love it because like I identify as a weirdo.
Hey, don't we all?
Right? Just a little bit. So I started getting back into my occult studies. So a lot of those cards kind of reflect that symbolism. Some of it is more exploring parts of what I was thinking at the time. Some of them were just doodles. So my ex was an alcoholic because of course he was. And I was working night shift at the local nursing home, which was in and of itself just, of course I was. And it was very isolating.
Like a nurse LPN or
I was an LPN.
Oh, cool.
I was actually an LPN for 10 years. Dude, I tell you what, that was probably as bad as the marriage. Like, if I could have gotten a break from one or the other, I don't know, man. That's not just a whole thing. But, like, and of course, this is like, I'm out in, like, the middle of nowhere. I'm living out in Jackson County, somewhere in the backwoods. And the only socialization outside of work is when my ex dragged me to the bar. And I gotta tell you, being the only sober one at a backwoods bar on a Thursday night,
sounds miserable.
It was. It was. So I started drawing these cards just to have something to do.
And these are thick. It's about, for those just listening, about inch and a half?
It's 100 plain blank index cards that I just started drawing. And you can tell I was going to try and make them look nice. I don't know what I was thinking. I painted the backs of a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. But I started drawing those cards, and somewhere when I got about 30 cards together, whenever somebody would ask me what I was doing, I'll tell them I'm drawing cards. Would you like me to do a reading for you? And they would either leave me alone because I don't want to talk to the drunk, or they'd get a reading, and I'm like, okay, I'll give you a reading if you give my husband a shot or a beer so he get drunk faster so I could go home sooner. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I got started. It's kind of a boss story now, but damn, it sucked.
Yeah. What a
wild story. So eventually, like after I nearly deleted myself, that was really part of a tailspin. Like I lost. Then this is another thing. When you are properly cursed, it is very hard to keep a job, and whatever job you do get will just suck the life out of you. So I started, I lost my job. No, this was before I tried to self-delete, because I tried to go to nursing school. I wanted to get my RN. That fell through, and then my father died. And so that was kind of when things started to change. I don't know if it was right before or right after that I started the deck, because that was 2014. He died January 1st, 2014. He died of a blowjob.
What?
That really happened. You may have to edit this whole part out, but he did. Poor mom was traumatized.
I'm so sorry to laugh. Do I laugh?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Everybody else does. I certainly do. No, it's awful. No, it's awful.
Like a heart attack?
I think we're pretty sure that he had an aortic aneurysm.
Oh.
But he literally came and went at the same time. Mom was so traumatized, and there was nothing worse.
Was that a joke that you just
No.
did? Oh, okay.
No. Let me tell you how bad it was. because, racing down to the ER in that terrible moment, I've got that call, Dad is dying. I thought he was dying. I didn't know he was already dead. So I'm going way too fast to get from, what should have taken me like probably an hour and a half took me about 45 minutes. And so I get down there and he's bloated already. He's already bloated, and he's got the sheet over him halfway. So he's from here up is exposed. He's got all these really cool tattoos. I miss my dad's tattoos. Just inspiration to get more tattoos. I need more tattoos, I guess. Anyway, so Mom's there, and inevitably we're waiting for everybody to show up. My uncle shows up, my sister, everybody's there. And the question comes up, what happened? So Mom's like going through this trauma of losing her husband, like right in front of her. And she's like, well, we ate dinner. And I think he really, maybe he thought something was going to happen, because he was very, very sure to show me how to make this mustard sauce for this corned beef. And we ate dinner. And of course, we sat down on the couch like, well, you kids are old enough. I was giving him a and she whispers this. I lost it. I lost it in the ER. Those nurses had to think I'm some sort of psychopath.
Oh, my Lord. I'm so sorry to laugh.
No, you can't help it, though.
Yeah. Wow.
Everybody does. Like, what do you do with that? What do you do with that?
How? Was you laughing, or was
I was laughing. We're in the ER. Goodness. Like, these nurses have to think I'm some sort of psychopath. I don't know what they thought of me.
Wow.
I don't care. But what was worse was in having to listen to my poor mother try to tell the G-rated version to my, elders of the family. I think she was 100 at the time, year-old aunt.
Wow.
Like, she had to go to my father's funeral and tell people how he died while omitting the finale, we'll say.
That's one of the craziest things I've ever heard.
I know. And that's my dad.
Wow.
That was how he he died the way he lived.
Lord.
What do you do with that?
I'm trying not to laugh.
What do you do with that?
My
I don't
goodness.
know.
How old was he?
He was only 57. He had some other health issues and life stuff. But if you're going to go out, that's the way to do it.
I mean, I guess so.
It's still something. It's legendary.
Yeah.
That's legendary.
That's legend status.
Yeah. He, apparently, he literally, because Mom couldn't help but go into graphic detail. So I'm going to sit here and tell it to the internet. Mom was
Is your mom still alive?
No, she passed away. She actually got pancreatic cancer, but she lived long enough for me to see me get Dottie the Psychic up and rolling.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah.
Well, good.
But so that happened. That's a whole part of another story. We're going to bring the mood right back down because I was in the middle of being cursed when this happened.
No, yeah, okay.
Right? Where do you go from there? So it was probably about a year and a half after that, things are getting incrementally worse. Slow but sure. And that's another hallmark of being cursed is things will get better just so you feel how far you're falling. I don't know how to describe it, except that when you're beat down for a long time, you stop knowing how beat down you are. And so sometimes when that's going on, something good will happen just so you can feel the rock bottom fall again.
Gotcha.
And so my sister got married. And all I wanted was to be happy for her. And my husband would shut the hell up. He was saying just dumb things about how he wasn't the center of attention at my sister's wedding, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
If you all have a narcissist in your life, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, they exist.
They exist. They're real. They happen. And they are just, So because he wasn't the center of attention at my sister's wedding, he was making it my problem. And I had already been thinking about it. But I had also, because I had lost my job at the nursing home by this point. and I had tried to start a new job, and my mom was an RN. She's a freaking legend. My mom was a legend. Like, my dad's was a legend, but my mom was the legend. She was so unassuming, but she was like a level 3 nurse at CAMC, and I tried to get a job there, and I wasn't able to hack it. So my sister's getting married. I'm failing under my mother's eye. And my marriage is terrible. Like, home life is not okay. He never laid his hands on me. And God, just to say that out loud, I can, like, that doesn't, we're going to just.
There are many forms of abuse.
Yeah. God, that still sticks in my craw. It's been years. I haven't seen this man in 7 years. And that's still, whenever I say he doesn't hit me or something like that, I can feel my insides just churn a little bit. So it was bad enough. I mean, it was bad enough. And
I mean, thank goodness he didn't hit you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, mental abuse is very.
Oh, it was so bad at one point. I remember for some reason we had just all these psychedelic. We had like 6 hits of acid just hanging out in our fridge. I got all the way to work. I'm not doing well at work. I've already been bounced from one floor to the other because I wasn't able to hack it. And so I called off work in the parking lot. I'm like, I puked in the parking lot. And I drive home, sign on to the psychic hotline I was working, which was a joke. It was like some sort of bizarre slave line. I don't know how the hell I even came across it. I signed in and took 6 hits of acid. and then I went in and just told him, I'm like, yeah, I just took all the acid. This is the like
told your husband?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's like, turn off the psychic hotline, which is probably the only good advice he ever gave me. And I'm glad I followed. And then he calls my mom. So my mom came and sat with me while I am just tripping all the way out. And I mean, like, sensory. There was at one point, and the reason I bring up this story is because at one point I'm sitting there, I am tripping. I'm fully tripping. I am out there in outer space.
Right.
And I am standing in my living room and I feel my hair get pulled. And then I realize I'm pulling my hair. And then I see myself from the corner of the room. Like, you know how, like, if I'm standing here, I'm looking at the microphone.
Right.
That's kind of how I was looking at the back of my own head.
Oh, wow. You had out-of-body experience.
Pulling my hair. And then, like, yeah, I had a full-on out-of-body experience where I'm pulling my hair from the top corner of the room, and then I look up in that top corner of the room, back in my own body, and see a demon. So, like, I am the demon. Like, oh, that was a little on the nose. So that was cursed. Like, that's how a curse works.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you took acid and saw the demon that cursed you?
Yes. Well, it wasn't separate from myself. That's the thing. We call it a demon because we want it to not be us. But the thing is, often the demon is us. We're feeding it. It is a part of us and we are a part of it. And sometimes the biggest thing you can do to uncurse yourself is to heal that broken part. I can tell you how many times, a lot of times, the people who have poltergeists, they always say a poltergeist is usually a teenager in the house, but it's not always just a teenager in the house. It's often menopausal women, but anybody who is under enough stress. Anybody who's under enough stress and has any sort of natural gift, especially if they're trying to deny it, can create a poltergeist, an angry ghost, a loud ghost. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what happened. And that's kind of how it works. Like, and then this creature that I have created of my self-loathing is attacking me. It's feeding off that self-loathing, and so it generates that self-loathing until I snapped.
Wow.
And then have to take it apart, and you know that nothing wants to cease to exist. Mm-hmm. So of course that's when things amp up and the plants die, and the last night I was there, I had already decided to leave, and I was just waiting for the moment. I didn't have a plan, but I knew it was time to go, and I was just waiting for the moment. And I don't even remember what I said, but I just stopped letting him lie to me about the situation. I stopped letting him pretend like he was big and bad and that he was always the victor or the victim. And I wasn't having it that night. And I wasn't having it that night. And it was funny because the guy at the bar was like, well, I think I'll go home to my own angry wife. And we go home and he's threatening to shoot himself.
Goodness.
Yeah, he's threatening. He's got my dad's Mauser out. I'll remember it to my dying day. He's sitting at the table. He's like, he's drunk, so he's wobbling. And then he comes in. I'm like, I can't deal with him anymore. I'm so jaded, done. Empty, because that's kind of the point you have to reach, is of emptiness. To really kick it, you have to empty out. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And I have just reached that point. I'm taking a bath, and he comes in with that gun, and he points it at me, and he says, if you say one more mean thing to me, I'm going to make your suicide happen.
My goodness.
And so I called my uncle the next morning, not necessarily with the intent to leave, but I'm like, I believe in my wedding vows. I'm a person who I try to keep my word because I want to keep a word that's worth keeping, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I try to be the kind of person that you can trust to do what they say they're going to do.
Sure.
As a psychic, as a person, that's important. So when I married this person, I expected it to be death to us part until I realized one of us was going to die. And I called my uncle. I'm like, I'm done. And he didn't let me talk about it because I figured like, okay, what happened now? Let's talk it out. So I was expecting marriage counseling. He's like, I'm on my way. I'm like,
Heck yeah.
I didn't realize I had accidentally triggered the phone tree that had been set up the day I got married. So yeah, and that's how I got out. And that whole time I had really started to work on all my practice. It's funny because like right after the suicide attempt, I ended up in the psych ward. And it was the same hospital I'd been working. I had actually cast a spell. I had cast a spell because I wanted to work the psych ward, but I didn't phrase it correctly. I said, I'm casting this spell to go to the psych ward. Of course, that's not exactly what I said. If you know about statements of intent, but I did screw up the wording so that it came out, I want to go to the psych ward rather than I want to work the psych ward. So I ended up in there for 2 weeks, and it was a liberating experience. My grippy sock vacay.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the best vacation I never intended on going on. It's like a cross between, it was like vacation in Russia. You can't go anywhere or do anything. But you don't have to go anywhere or do anything.
Wow. Well, shout out to your family for getting you out of that situation. Because when people start talking like that, it's time to bounce.
Yeah, no, it was time. It had been time to go. All the red flags in the world. All the red flags in the world. You can't see any of them with rose-tinted glasses on. When nobody can. No, you can't. You can't save anybody from a curse until they're ready to break it.
Right.
And that's a sad part of it, is like, because there comes a certain sacrifice to get rid of that in your life. You have to let go of something that you don't realize that is so important, so vital to you in the moment. But once it's gone, you're better off without it. And that sacrifice usually comes in some sort of grand show. It comes in a moment. You have years of suffering, and then boom, can't take it anymore, won't take it anymore, and move on. And you look back, and it's like being born again. And I already I had started to work towards being the person I wanted to be with the psychic stuff. And I just never, even if I got a part-time job, nothing really fit. I tried to do a couple things. I think my favorite, if for whatever reason I decide to give up on Dottie the Psychic and go get a real job again, I'll probably go work with the unhoused again. They were fun.
Right. Some
of the best lessons I've learned as a psychic have been working with people who were in bad situations. And it's a humbling job. But I think I've managed to make Dottie the Psychic start to really work. And I'm out there, I'm helping people because I'm glad that I'd worked with the homeless. I'm glad that I was a nurse because I think I got more of my psychic training from being there when people were crossing over and being with people who are in psychosis and having serious life problems going on, that they're, in these terrible positions. Learning to help them has made me the kind of psychic that I am, because I understand when somebody comes to me, no matter how the story goes, no matter what's going on in their life, there's something big going on in their life. They're suffering. They've come to me because they're suffering and they feel like they don't have another outlet. And it's my job that even if I cannot help this person, to give them some idea of where they can go to next. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, I can help you with this, this, and this, but you're going to need to talk to a professional about this, this, and this.
Right.
You know, here's 211 United Way. That's one of the resources that I've held on to.
211 phone number?
Yes.
Okay.
If you are at risk of homelessness before you're out on the street, 211 is United Way. It is a nationwide hotline. There's also 988 is the suicide prevention hotline, but you can also call them for drug addiction. And if you're at risk of losing your home, things like that. Those are the numbers. 211 and 988.
It's only 988?
988.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, it's a national hotline. It's like 911.
Yep.
There's also 411 before you go digging. Just throw that one out there for y'all.
Oh, yeah. Electric lines in the yard.
just to bring the mood back up. That was a little heavy.
Listen. I'm glad you're here. You're on the way back up, and I'm just so glad that you decided to leave this jerk.
Yeah.
So, and
it's kind of, it's funny though, because that sense of isolation, it still kind of haunts me, but it's where I work from. Because I have been so profoundly lonely and isolated, because that's a hallmark of a curse, that I am willing to meet people where they are. I'm willing to understand that wherever somebody is that's where they are. Like, even people that don't like me, there are people out there who have decent enough reason not to like me. I've had my episodes in public. But it's from that is really where being able to be a psychic is. And it's kind of from that. I started to go through this whole gender journey because I'd been the only man in my life for so long that maybe I am a non-binary person. And I feel like I still am a non-binary person. But I started to kind of follow the trans community, and we ended up I've got a video from 2023 that kind of talks about how Metro Valley Pagan Pride sort of came about. Mm-hmm. We had all these protests and things where they were really starting to amp up the anti-trans legislation and the anti-woman legislation, really. Just the anti-living people, anti-working class legislation. Sorry, didn't mean to get too political.
No. It's
it's all one thing.
Well, yeah, and stuff like that. Yeah. Like it's life. It's humans we're talking about. It's not really a political thing with me. So yeah,
right. But all that had happened, and my mom passed away in 2021. So this is all 2008, January 10th, 2018 to now. I have been filling in the time. I have done my best to make it count. So mom passed away in 2021, and I've held on to as much as I can. You know how that goes. But I've held on to some of that inheritance that she left for me. And I took that, and because they had all these things going on politically, these protests that I had been to, and if you get a chance to watch that video, it's pretty cool. It's on Madame Tortuga's Lounge. I'm very proud.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
Because of all that, I started to try. I'm like, okay, I can only work from where I am. I am a pagan. I got pagan friends. How many of us does it take? Also, there was another event before. There was a Charleston area pagan pride, and the guy who had run that had passed away right in the same window. So it was like boom, boom, boom. Like when the fate opens the door, it does so with a bang. And that was kind of what had happened. I had my inheritance from my mom. We just lost a major, a lightning rod in the community. And he was an interesting character. We love Colin. He was an interesting character. But he had run Charleston area pagan pride. So we're all kind of watching this event flounder. He died like a month before it was supposed to happen. So we missed that year. And somebody was supposed to pick it up out of the group, and they had life happen. And so I asked his widow if I could take over it, because I'm trying to, I know I have ADHD and I'm going to lose this inheritance. There is this thing called the ADHD tax. It's real. It's not really something I will spend money randomly, and I try to be as smart as I can with it when I can. So I'm like, this would be something that my mom would probably think was really cool. And I can do this in her honor and in Colin's honor, and really bring the community together. And that's how Metro Valley Pagan Pride started. I talked a bunch of my friends into it, and then I've kind of lightning rodded, and then I'm trying to get it diversified as possible. Trying to like set things up so that I don't need to be there for us to continue to function, so that we're following an idea and not a person. Because I mean, this is not the cult I want to start. I'm not a cult leader. I would make a terrible cult leader. I don't have the ego for it. I can't sit there and tell you I'm right when I know I'm not. I just can't. You're
not narcissist enough.
No. Gotcha. I mean, I can argue myself. I'll sit there, when you get red faced, that temper goes up. I'll tell you whatever. I'll say all sorts of nonsense, but I can't help but go back and be like, okay, you know what? This was wrong. I'm sorry.
No, that's a great. Do pagans? Right. So pagans don't believe in the. Do you believe in the devil? I mean, you said gods, plural. So
here's the thing. Certainly most of them do not work with the devil. I don't think a lot of them do believe in the devil. There are witches that believe in the devil. They're like satanic witches. They're not pagan. There are, but in the pagan community, a lot of the characters that the devil came from are important to us, like Pan. Oh my God, I'm going to forget his name, but he's got the antler horns. Cyranonos, I think is his name. Oh my God, I butchered that. I'm so bad with pronunciations.
That was good to me. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, you all don't know, so it's fine. But out there, I'm going to get roasted later. My community's going to see this, and I am going to get roasted, and I deserve it, and I'm sorry.
Hey, regardless, be sure to subscribe to Creepalachia on YouTube. If you want to roast Dottie,
share, and subscribe.
Just be nice. Yeah, let's be nice. No, that's good. All right, so wrapping up here. Final thoughts. I mean, what a conversation. So many turns.
I'm glad I could live up, because I really just kind of blasted out like, oh, what's the most interesting thing about me? I'm like, it's funny, because once you decide that you're just going to go out there and live your life, you quickly become a legend for it. And I didn't intend to be all this bombastic.
I think
here we are.
I think it's great. So yeah, what do you want to say to people? Just kind of, before you be too judgmental, try to talk, converse, and we're all stuck in this third dimensional meat grinder together. Let's try to make the best of it. That's right. What do you want to plug before we? You
know what? Okay, so I want to plug Metro Valley Pagan Pride. We are pagan. We are proud, and that is a place for people of all walks. So come check us out. We've actually got a meeting. We do our meetings we've got a Discord group, and we do our meetings once a month on there. So you can find that through the Facebook group and a website. It's mvpaganpride.org. And then you can also find more about me, Dottie, at DOTTIE,
Did you write that jingle?
No, I kind of came up with it on the fly.
Just now.
Yeah. No, it's okay. So Dottie, there's two ways to spell Dottie. It's DOTTY, which is not me. I'm DOTTIE. So I put the IE to make sure people actually remember it.
Top of mind. I love it.
Yeah. And then I remember the old GoDaddy commercials.
Yep.
.com.
Yep.
So then it comes DOTTIE, the psychic.com.
I love this.
And people will sing that to me. That's not my favorite jingle, though. My favorite jingle is Dottie the Psychic, Queer of the Weird Frontier. So yeah, you can find everything there. I've also got Madame Tortuga's Lounge. The website is right here on YouTube. That's where I put my more like my deeper stuff. And then I've got a channel that is Dottie the Psychic that is more for my clients, like people who want to learn more about divination. I've got some cool stuff. I do drag in there a couple of times. And I also got, hopefully I'll have the episode out soon, Chaos Conjure with my friend Jay, and where we talk about being pagan in Appalachia. And we did an episode right after we had gone to a protest where we had, here's a crazy story. I don't know how much time you got.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, good, because I got one more crazy story for you. So our second episode of Chaos Conjuring, we did, we were part of a little, politics, or what politics are doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went to a protest, but we had gone with this sigil, which is, it's kind of a statement of intent that has been turned into a picture that is kind of nonsensical in and of itself, but you use that as a focus to create. So we had a little group of us, politically active pagans, do this sigil, and we all agreed that we were going to get the crowd to do this sigil at a certain time together, which is, we thought was really super cool. And so we get to this protest, and there had been a lot of miscommunication to begin with, because it was we had the Ignite Voices at like 2:00, and then 5051 said they wanted theirs at noon. So there was some people that had showed up at noon. Not very many. They were kind of just like, well, where is everybody? So they're just out there with their signs. It was also Fairness Day, which Fairness West Virginia, we stand Fairness West. We love Fairness West Virginia. All the ACLU, Fairness West Virginia. There are a lot of really good resources for people who are interested in civil liberties and just trying to save the world. Like West Virginia Rivers, they just lost critical funding. It's good to look into them. They do a lot of just protecting our waters, so we can have drinking water, but also so we can still have wildlife in West Virginia. Our most precious resource is our mountain mother,
Sure.
The forest, the woods, the deers, the bears. That's why people come here to see that beauty, and they're kind of helping protect the water that makes that possible.
Right.
So definitely check them out. Plug them real quick. I forgot where I was going. Oh, it's telling a story.
Sigil.
So we have a sigil. And I'll send you a picture of that if you want me to.
Sure, yeah.
Edit in. But it was free the land and heal the people, or was it heal the people and free I can't remember. It was one or the other. Anyway, so we go to this thing, and because there was this miscommunication, nobody was leading this thing. Jay and I just show up. I'm like, okay, Fairness Day had happened earlier, but they were shutting down because they didn't want to be associated with a protest because they're a formal organization, and they just, that's a lot of liability.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of liability. So we'd gone through, we just kind of run through, we grabbed some like promotional pins from the ACLU. We grabbed some of these leave your senator a message from the fairness table, and we went out and we were passing them out. So we just started working the crowd. We just started working the crowd because I'm just a natural showman. I get it from my daddy. I get my mouth from my daddy and my ass from my mom. I put them both to good use. And so while I'm out there, I just start working the crowd. It's not my pin, it's not your pin, keep it moving, because I only had 4 pins. So we got everybody's like, okay. So we gather them up. People now think I'm in charge because I'm the one talking to the crowd. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I start asking people, what brought you here? So we start swapping resources.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're doing chants, we're swapping resources. We're sharing like 5 calls a day. If you go to the number 5, CALLS.org, that is a website that will tell you why you should be angry at your senator and give you their number.
I gotta say, any political stuff I do not sponsor.
Fair enough.
But
I don't. They ain't paying me to say this.
But, yeah.
They ain't paying me to say this.
You're fine.
I'm gonna save the world kick, and you all get to deal with it.
I love it.
Making it everybody's problem. So we were out there. We just started taking over this rally, and at some point, my voice cracked because I'm out here for 45 minutes speaking the way I am right now, trying to enunciate to the crowd. Get out there, just like doing the showman thing. You got to be loud. You got to get attention.
Sure.
God, I love attention. I'm good at attention most of the time. So at some point, somebody handed me a lozenge, and I'll never forget. The lady's like, "Here, honey, have a lozenge." So I take the lozenge, and then somebody comes up from my left and hands me a bullhorn, and I still have this bullhorn. It's now a sacred relic to me. I've put my rebel stickers on there, and when they bury me, they shall bury me with this bullhorn, so that I can, I don't know. But so, and then somebody came up with a microphone. They're like, "Hey, I've got a microphone." I'm like, "Give that to Jay." So Jay takes the microphone. She starts working the backstage. We get up there. We say some things to the crowd. People now think we're the ones who have organized this, even though and I was saying the whole time, I'm like, I'm not in charge here. Nobody's in charge here. And you should all know that. Every one of you should know that I have no idea what I'm doing. And so we get up there. She starts working the backstage, and I'm working between the sets, and we ended up on the news. The news pulls, Fox News pulls me over the side and says, "Hey, could you tell us a little bit about who's organizing this?" And I'm like, "This wasn't organized. This is a product of the fear and rage of the people." They didn't like that answer. It did not make it to the final cut.
Oh, wow. That's funny.
But yeah, we ended up getting and a senator even came on our podcast that evening and everything. It was wild. It was wild. But that's how magic works sometimes.
Sure.
Like you go in, you put out this, and that's the thing. If you're going to do magic, be prepared to do the magic and the work, because they may be two separate things, but you're signing up for both. Right.
Man. Well,
Dottie the Psychic.
Yeah, Dottie the Psychic. This is everything I wanted it to be. I appreciate you being so open and coming on the show.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah. Y'all be sure to check out Dottie the Psychic, aka Dottie the Witch, but that's not the brand, really.
Yeah, that's not the brand. The brand is Dottie the Psychic. Yeah. I am a witch. I am a pagan. And here's the thing. I will tell you that I don't sell spell work. If you need help doing something, I'll help you do something, but I'm not doing your work for you. And I am not cursing anybody. This is one of those funny stories. I'm sorry. I will drag this out.
You're fine.
I get paid. I work the hotline. I get paid to keep people on the phone. Right. So here we go again. I had this guy one time call me, and I have my now ex-girlfriend in the car, but she was my current girlfriend at the time.
There's someone in the car?
With me, yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize.
And I got this call.
They could have came in and said.
No, not the car.
Oh, not out here.
No, in the story.
Gotcha.
In the story. I don't even remember where we were driving, but I was driving, and I get this call, and it's this guy who says, "I think my girlfriend cursed me." I'm like, okay, I believe that you are under distress, and then let's talk about it. Why do you think you're cursed? And he starts going on. And he can't even help. I don't know, somewhere out there, I wish that I had kept my crap together to find out who had put the curse on him, because I would like to send them a bunch of flowers, because in the course of telling me what had gone on, it was a hex. It wasn't a curse. It wasn't that bad. Yeah. It was just somebody who had sent out who'd done a bunch of dumb stuff, was getting what they deserve back.
Right.
At one point, I'm like, I don't think I can help you, because this sounds more like a justice spell. But if you want, I'll come and I will bless your children, and I'll do protection for the children in the house. And they said no. I'm like, well, that sealed the deal. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I can't, just because you call me for help doesn't mean I'm going to help. But then again, I've also had people come who are dealing with just. I swear, I go and I look at these people's auras, and it's like they've got hooks and tentacles stuck in them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like good people. And of course, it's always the good people that come. They're like, and it's a narcissistic attachment. And it's always wild, because they'll pull this thing out of their aura, and they can feel it. A lot of times they'll feel it in their body. Mm-hmm. Like it'll be like a massive pain removed or something like that. And when you do that, it's always mind blowing. It's every single time. And I do it sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, where I'll help somebody do a deep spiritual cleanse on somebody who's just having crap luck. All their money's gone. And then they usually find out that they're in a bad relationship, an abusive, narcissistic relationship. I'm like, okay, you've got to cut this person out of your life, and you got to start living your life for yourself. Yeah. You're like Dr. Phil with the witch stuff. And morals. Morals. Oh, there you go. Okay. Sorry, I couldn't help it. I am a judgy bitch. I will be your designated judgy bitch. That's good to have. It takes a village. Well, thank you, Dottie. I'm going to let everyone else know. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to Creepalachia before you leave. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify,
take a minute, leave a review. Those reviews will help the show be found. And don't forget, we are on Facebook and on TikTok. You got any social media you want people to know about?
Yeah. I've got my website, which I sang about earlier, Dottie the Psychic.com. But also on, yeah, I know, right? I've also got, of course, MVPP or MVPaganpride.org. Both of those, I've got those both Facebook. They're both on Facebook somewhere out there in the vague ether of reality. So I've got those, the podcast, Madame Tortuga's Lounge and Chaos Conjuring. You can find everything else. Like, you can book an appointment with me through DOTTIE which I desperately need to update. Safe travel and much profit to you.
Heck yeah. And on that, above all else, everyone always remember, long live Appalachia.